Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another video. For today's video, we will be taking a look at something that I was once really on board with heavily, and I really agreed with quite consistently whenever this was brought up in multiple people's videos or in just, questions about gamings and whatnot, and that is the concept of physical versus digital games. Now, it is no surprise that physical games have been on the decline, and it's also really no surprise that this trend will continue since we have the whole pandemic and people want to stay as far away as they possibly can from people, so it's not really going to go down in anytime soon. But, even before this, places like GameStop that back in the day used to be really active and whatnot, and I would literally often remember times where people were literally just pretty much sitting out in lines, just waiting to get in to get a new game and whatnot. So I do remember how that was, especially on the initial days of releases and whatnot. But as time continued, this really died down as more and more people would start choosing to get their games digitally. And for them, since games began having to get regular updates, they just considered, what's really the point if I'm still gonna have to download things on games and whatnot. So what's the real point in getting a physical disc? And so that also really helped them get the digital copy instead of the physical copy, which is a fair point and one that I agree with for a very long period of time, pretty much until now. You see, I have been without internet in my home for, I believe, over 2 years now, and I do have internet, so it's not necessarily that I don't have internet at all. It just is not stable enough to either play games online, and it's not stable enough to run a computer. Pretty much just good enough for tablets and whatnot. So I don't really have reliable internet, and not even, let alone downloading games, like I said. Not to mention the fact that game file size these days continues to increase since we have games that are pretty much seasonal and whatnot. So download time could take days. Even with decent internet, download times can take days. You know what I mean? And recently I got an early gift, and what the early gift was the Dark Souls trilogy on physical discs. And I noticed that not only do physical discs look really cool, because remember, I have not had physical discs in a very long time, but I really began thinking, if there was literally no physical copies of games, people who just have terrible internet around the world will literally just be unable to play offline games. They'd be unable to play offline games. Think about it for a moment, folks. They'd obviously have their copy digitally, and that's fine. But if they wanted a game that even it was just offline only, and there was no physical copy, they literally have no way to play that game. They'd have to download it, but their internet is literally nowhere near good enough to download it in the first place. There's also the fact that console space, regardless of what you want to say, but we've got terabytes and stuff like that, is limited. Over the years, you can accumulate quite a lot of games. I've seen plenty of people's game collection over the years, and I mean, they have nearly an entire bookshelf, in a gen of gaming, full of PS3 games, Xbox 360 games, PS4 games when positive. So a lot of games can be accumulated over the years, and that is going to be taking up a lot of space on the console. And eventually, what you will have to do, as I said, as game file size continues to increase, because seasonal games are becoming very popular these days, because you're able to make more money off of it. It's very easy to monetize and whatnot since it's seasonal. Since it's getting larger, console space seems like it's large, but it's not really large when you've got a freaking 10 gigabyte game, just one game, 10 gigabyte game, and it's still going to be increasing over the years. So eventually you're probably going to have to uninstall that game to make space at some point, but then reinstall, and the game's already huge, and that's going to be quite annoying and quite time consuming. Some people are probably like, oh, but TCD, it doesn't change the fact that more people still choose to get their video games digitally. And you're 100% right, and you're right. But like I did say, keep in mind that people around the world, right now you're probably thinking about that, but you're in a country that likely has decent internet access, and the internet that is available is actually relatively useful and functional. Other places in the world may have either no internet at all or just insanely crappy internet to where it's literally unplayable for most. Like, do you know people in Oceania consider good ping in Oceania is like 300. 300, guys. Can you imagine playing something like Call of Duty, for example, with 300 ping? The lagging would lead one on the verge of insanity. I cannot imagine what it would be like to literally, on average, consider 300 ping as good. You know what I mean? And that's, once again, online. But my point is, that's the case for, like, digital games. Because the only way to get a digital game is to get it online. And if your ping is 300 and your internet is that bad, can you imagine the download times itself? Good luck, man. And then, not to say if it's that bad, I'm positive that it crashes occasionally. So, all of this, as well as my experience without really solid internet for over 2 years now, I really feel like even if physical copies are not selling as well, they should always be around in my eyes. Even if they're just not as manufactured as much, like if there aren't as many discs made, I personally understand. But I still think that they should be around because, like I said, folks, if I did not have physical copies of Dark Souls, and someone like, oh, here's the Dark Souls trilogy, and I just bought it digitally for you, I literally have no way to get it. You know what I mean? But because it's a physical copy, I'm able to just boom, put the disc in, and I'm off to go. I'm really, that's it. That's it. So I've really changed the way that I saw this because I was always seeing it from the perspective of someone who had okay internet and reliable internet, but now that I've been without internet so long, I've really just changed my minds on it. So, if none other for the simple fact that someone's internet or lack of internet will make acquiring video games nearly impossible, I really, really, really think that physical copies, even, once again, if they're not as many, should always be around. So, with that being said, that's going to conclude this really quick, short video discussing physical games versus digital games. I know it's kind of sudden and whatnot, but, I'm really trying to bring back game discussion, and I've been talking about a lot of serious stuff as of late, and I kind of want to bring a bit more lighthearted things to play. So, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, how are you? Do you feel like no physical games should just be around anymore? We just need all digital, or are you have I kind of swayed your mind a bit to, like, where you see the importance of at least having the option there just in case, once again, the internet is bad? I'd love to hear your comments, so please, feel free to leave them. As always, rate the video what you think it deserves. Tell me what you like seeing featured in the comments below. Feel free to check out my amino, linked in the comments, as well as my BitChute, linked in the About Me page of my channel, and I will see you all next time. Take care, stay safe, and God bless.